Mills on both sides of the river. Even then, Northfield was already a college town, as it was and still is home to St. Olaf and St. Olaf and Carleton colleges. So imagine, if you will, Northfield's just some 20 years old. The downtown buildings are mostly wood frame with a few made of brick and stone. The streets, of course, were unpaved. The homes of the residents were built close to the downtown area, and the people on the street were ordinary citizens, merchants, farmers, and immigrants. They were peaceful, yet determined people. They were used to dealing with hardships, but not people to be taken advantage of. So contrast that in your minds, if you will, with the James Younger gang. Who were these men from Missouri? Why were they so far from home, and why this bank here in Northfield, Minnesota? The first robbery blamed on the James Younger gang was the Clay County Savings Bank in Liberty, Missouri in 1866. In the decade that followed that first robbery, at least 20 more were committed by the James Younger gang. Most of these holdups left people, innocent people, dead or wounded. On July 7, 1876, 2 months to the day before the Northfield robbery, the gang held up Missouri Pacific train at a place called Rocky Cut in Otterville, Missouri. They made off with $18,300, an amount that's worth over $500,000 today. Shortly after the Rocky Cut robbery, a new gang member by the name of Hobbs Carey was captured and turned state's evidence. The gang intended to head to Texas, but once Carey's confession was published in the newspaper, the men decided to head north, likely by rail for Minnesota. Once here, the gang spent a week in St. Paul, followed by a week in Minneapolis, staying at the finest hotels the cities had to offer. From Minneapolis, they traveled by rail to surrounding communities, searching for horses, looking over the banks in southern Minnesota, and acquainting themselves with the lay of the land. Posing as cattle buyers and land speculators, their inquiries raised little suspicion. We are gathered here today not to honor a band of outlaws, but rather to pay tribute to the heroism of the peace-loving citizens of this community, especially in the memory of Joseph Lee Haywood, a 39-year-old man who, at the time of the robbery, was the acting cashier in the only bank in town, treasurer of Carleton College, treasurer of the Congregational Church, and the Northfield Public Schools. Today we pay tribute to Mr. Haywood and all of the private citizens of the community who sprung into action to protect their neighbors as well as the economy of the city. A memorial plaque is located inside the Bank Museum, and we invite you to read it after the performance. It concludes, "Faithful unto death." A memorial stained glass window in the Congregational Church bears his name, and the inscription, "Fidelitas," faithfulness. Another plaque is located in Laird Hall on the Carleton campus. It reads in part, "In grateful memory of Joseph Lee Haywood," inscribed by his friends as a tribute to heroic fidelity, and concludes, "Be faithful unto death." So travel back with us then to Thursday, September 7th, 1876, the place is downtown Northfield. All seems normal in this quiet Midwest college town with local citizens and area farmers going about their business. The clerks and tradesmen are all busy with their usual work. Facing Mill Square were the dry goods store, Lee and Hitchcock, and Hiram Scribe were both in the same building as the bank. The hardware stores of A.R. Manning and J.S. Allen and Son were next, also facing Mill Square. You are looking at the original bank building as it existed in 1876. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Bob Younger, Frank James, and Charlie Pitts rode across the Iron Bridge into Mill Square from the west side of town where they had just eaten lunch. The men all wore these linen dusters, no doubt to hide the firepower on the gun belts. These coats were not uncommon for the time, but so many men on horseback did attract attention. The three tied up their horses near the bank and walked to the corner where they could observe their comrades taking position near the Iron Bridge, also coming up from the south on Division Street. These three would be the first group of robbers on the scene and go into the bank, the inside men, to attempt the holdup. Next, Cole Younger and Clell Miller ride up from Division Street in the south while the first group of robbers go from the corner, walk to the bank, and go in. At that time, Cole Younger dismounts, throws a stirrup over his saddle, and acted as if he was adjusting his sitch, while Clell Miller dismounts, went to the bank door, closed it, and stands on guard on the outside. Curious hardware merchant J.S. Allen attempts to follow the three men into the bank, but was instantly seized by Clell Miller. Allen jerks away from Miller's grasp and ran towards his store on Mill Square. On his way, he shouted a warning, "Get your guns, boys! They're robbing the bank!" Henry Wheeler became suspicious, and once he saw Allen's encounter with Miller, he shouted, "Robbery! Robbery!" and runs towards the hotel. The alarm was sounded. Next, Clell Miller and Cole Younger sprang onto their horses and began riding up and down the street, chasing citizens away from the bank. At this point, the third group of the three robbers that were guarding the escape route on the Iron Bridge came onto the scene as soon as they heard the first warning shots. These men were Jim Younger, Bill Chadwell, and Jesse James. Meanwhile, inside the bank, Bob, Frank, and Charlie found the three bank employees at work. Bank teller Alonzo Bunker stepped to the window to wait on the robbers as they came in. Seated at their desks were acting cashier Joseph Lee Haywood and assistant bookkeeper Frank Wilcox. The vault door was open, with the safe on the inside. The safe door was shut, but not locked. The bank employees refused to open the safe. They told the robbers the safe had a time lock and couldn't be opened. Even after Haywood had been beaten unconscious, Bunker and Wilcox refused to open the safe. In an attempt to persuade the bank employees, Charlie Pitts fires a shot near Haywood's head. At that same moment, Alonzo Bunker runs through the back door of the bank. Pitts fires 2 shots at him, the second shot hitting him in the shoulder. At this point, the battle in the street was at its height. 5 of the robbers were riding up and down the street, shooting and ordering everyone off the streets. The people on the streets take cover. Stores and offices are quickly closed. Henry Wheeler had dashed into the Dampier Hotel and securing an old Army carbine rifle stationed himself at a 3rd-story window. J.S. Allen, who first sounded the alarm, alerted A.R. Manning of the robbery as he passed by his store. When Allen got to his store, he began handing out guns and ammunition to anyone willing to join the fray. The first citizen to arrive with a gun was Elias Stacy. Stacy shoots Clell Miller in the face with a load of fine birdshot, knocking Clell from his horse. Having been alerted by Allen, hardware store Manning grabbed his rifle and headed towards the bank. When he got to the corner of the Scriber building, he saw the robbers standing on the street behind a horse. So Manning aimed his gun at the horse and shot the horse. Then, as Miller got back on his horse, Wheeler, from his vantage point up in the hotel window, puts a bullet through Miller's heart, killing him instantly. As the firefight grew, Cole Younger rides to the bank door several times, pleading with his comrades to come out so they could retreat. And near the end of the battle, several men come onto the street at the south end of the block. Cole Younger shot one of these men in the head. Swedish immigrant Nicholas Gustafson died of his wounds 4 days later. A.R. Manning shooting from the base of the stairwell, and Henry Wheeler shooting up high in a hotel window, along with all the armed townsmen, finally put the robbers to flight. A.R. Manning had killed Bob Younger's horse, wounded Cole Younger in the hip, and killed Bill Chadwell. Wheeler, from his vantage point, missed Jim Younger with his first shot, killed Clell Miller with his second shot, and severely wounded Bob Younger in the elbow with his third shot. Because of this injury, Bob had to use his left hand to shoot, and then had to mount the same horse with his wounded brother Cole before exiting to the south. 6 surviving robbers and 5 horses escaped town, headed south on Division Street. The battle was over. From its beginning to its close, it had lasted but 7 minutes. The funds in the bank were intact. 6 of the robbers were in flight, with at least 2 of them badly wounded. Bank teller Alonzo Bunker had been shot in the shoulder. Nick Gustafson had a lethal wound to his head. Lying in the street were the bodies of Clell Miller and Bill Chadwell. In the bank, the body of Joseph Lee Haywood. And now we present to you the Northfield Bank Raid, reenacted by our present-day townspeople and members of the current-day James Younger Bank. This first group included Bob Younger, Frank James, Charlie Pitts. And these are the ones that have just had lunch across the bridge on the west side of town. They're going to be the inside men, the three men that go into the bank. And the part that you don't see is inside the bank, the robbery, the guns coming out. And that part that once they go in, they are very aggressive at trying to get them to open the safe. Again, all these linen dusters, not uncommon for the time, but for such a small town with so many on horseback, and all the uniform-looking men did draw some attention. They rode the best horses money could buy, the best clothing money could buy. They were very well-spoken. They loved to talk about politics. They loved to go up and meet people. Everyone said that they were pleasant to speak with as they traveled about. Here you see the second group coming from the south. Cole Younger and Clown Miller right up. Cole says all these people on the street, that's going to be trouble, they better not go in. Just too much action out here, he says. That first group, as they time this out, as they approach, the first group's going to go to the bank. And again, the part that you're not able to see when they go in there is get your hands up. We've got 50 men out there. Curious hardware store owner J.S. Allen starts to follow. He's curious, wants to see what's up.
I'm going in the bank. Bank is closed. I'm going in the bank is closed. Get your guns, boys. They're robbing the bank.
That signals the guys, the three to come in. Stacy comes out and takes the first shot. Hit the face. Henry shooting up high, takes out Clell Miller. They cuts us in the shot. Bill Chadwell goes down. Bob is shot in his shoe. shooting hand. But his horse is down. He needs help. Bob's calling. As these men flee Northfield, chaos ensues. Groups form immediately. Help is called in from around the state. This chase would continue for several days. Will eventually 4 of the 6 are captured or killed near Medelia by a posse of 7 men on September 21st. They will be coming back this way, so just hang on there. We're going to make sure everybody's up and everybody is okay. We see Nicholas Gustafson. He's laying on the ground down there at the south end. He's not deceased at this point. He'd actually walked down in a little bit to the Cannon River to wash the blood off himself, but does die 4 days later. We see Cloud. He had been shot through the heart. He's up and good, as well as Bill Chadwell to the south. Everybody is good. And the James brothers will successfully retreat to Missouri. They're never going to end up robbing again and meeting up with the younger brothers. They try to organize without any luck. The 3 younger brothers are sentenced to life in prison down in Stillwater, Minnesota. But remember, folks, it was the townspeople that fought back. And Haywood, inside the bank, that saved the town's life savings and stopped this gang right here in Northfield, Minnesota. Again, they'll be coming down once they get all settled up. They'll have one more ride down here. If you want to see this again, I highly recommend coming back tomorrow. It's going to be grade 11, 1, 3, 5, and then 2 more on Sunday. Here they go. Great job, guys. What a nice night for a reenactment. A great job. We're trying to keep it as authentic and close to the original as we can get, so you actually witness this time machine. Again, thank you everybody for coming out for the 75th anniversary of the Peter Jesse James Days 2023.
Come on, this way. Let me help y'all.